Hi everyone, and thanks for checking out my channel. So very quickly, I'm just going to cut to the chase here. I'm not going to ramble on because we all have very busy lives and people just want to know the facts straight away and all that sort of stuff. So look, the Michael Gaine case, it's slow progression, isn't it, at the moment? Not much happening. Over the weekend, we heard that there's a person of interest who potentially has vulnerabilities. You know, who is that person with vulnerabilities? I don't know. Who's the person, the potential person of interest? Are they the same person? Possibly, I don't know at this stage. But the reality is, if you describe somebody as vulnerable, like if someone said to me, who would you describe as vulnerable? I'm not vulnerable. But somebody who has mental health problems or who may be abused or something like that, they could be classified as vulnerable. Somebody with Down syndrome could be described as vulnerable. Somebody who's fought in a war zone, maybe in Serbia during the war in the 90s, the Korean War, Vietnam. You know, a lot of those Vietnam veterans, or even in Iraq and in Baghdad, the American soldiers had to fight there. Some of them would be described as vulnerable because they have got post-traumatic stress disorder, and that's something you get from the after effects of the war and what it did to you on the battlefield. You know, none of us know what that's like. And I think 10%, approximately 10% of soldiers in armies who have to fight on the battlefield like that, they develop PTSD. So that person could be described as vulnerable. So I think there's two scenarios here to this case. I think it's two. I could say three or four, but no. I think there's two things that possibly happened, Michael. Michael left Centra, left Whites, drove to the farm, and just disappeared. Maybe he had a plan. Maybe he went off to the forest somewhere locally. Maybe he got a lift somewhere and he doesn't want that person to say anything. Or he's just going to turn up in a river somewhere. But there's no crime scene. And at this moment, if a body is there somewhere, maybe he took his own life voluntarily, there's going to be decomposition, severe decomposition, because he went missing on March 20th. It's now May 6th. So I know it's not a nice discussion to have, but look, we have to be honest and open here. And the weather's getting warmer, so that's going to be advanced decomposition if he has gone missing somewhere. So again, if it's a crime scene or he's just gone off on his own, you know, it's very hard to determine the cause of death when the body has decomposed like that. So that's scenario one. He just went off on his own. Either he took his own life or just disappeared and he's had enough. It doesn't look like a burglary or someone dropped him because the phone and the wallet were there. Okay. The other thing is that he went from White Centre and went straight to the farm, or he stopped off somewhere and had a dispute or an altercation with somebody. And maybe during the night, the RAV was then driven up to the farm and left there with the phone and wallet in it to make it look like he disappeared. But I would imagine an altercation happened, a dispute over something. Something maybe was developing over weeks and months, maybe something over a couple of months. There was a bad blood there between him and somebody else, and an altercation happened. And somebody who's very strong, who has the skills to conceal a body, possibly, is somebody maybe that they need to look into. And at this stage, they do have a person of interest with vulnerabilities. So, you know, you'd have to consider. You have to keep an open mind as to what it could be. But I don't think it's. I'm just not getting the feeling it's a family issue with his family. I think Janice came on and did a video there, an appeal. And I think she's frail. She looked frail in it. She looks like she's struggling. And you would be if your partner was missing and you were told that potentially he's dead. It's a homicide now. And she was talking in the past tense, but sure, she knew it was a homicide. They told her 24 hours beforehand. So of course she was talking in the past tense. He was a lovely person. He was a great farmer. He loved his farming. As people do, you know. They know he's not coming back. Now, those appeals can also be designed in a way to get the person they think is the suspect to break or whatever. But I don't think in that case it was. I just think, if anything, if I'm going to be critical, I think she should have made the appeal, or Michael's sister should have made the appeal a lot earlier. Because the sooner you jump on this, because I'm telling you, as the weeks go by, the next disappearance or the next murder or the next tragedy is going to befall on the media, and they're going to go somewhere else, and he will be forgotten about. And then the odd time people will come back to it. Look at Kyron Dernan, huge amount of publicity, and now I don't even know what's going on with that case. father took his own life, and Kyron, the body hasn't been found. You know, people go missing and they're never found. So I'm hoping in this case that doesn't happen. But it's two things. He went off on his own, disappeared himself, or he had a dispute or an altercation with somebody near the farm, or maybe he stopped off somewhere on the way back from Centre and White's, and he stopped off and that's where it happened. But somebody who's strong, you know, has hidden him somewhere. And that's not easy either, you know. So there's a concealment there. If it is the homicide, as the Gardaí are saying, that's it's tough trying to do that. You'd want to have skills to do that kind of thing. You want to be well trained in that. You know, I couldn't do that. I don't think I could do that. It's just so hard. It's just too tough. And unless you have help, but I don't think. I think it was one person. I think he knew his killer. If it's proven that it's a homicide, I think he definitely knows the person. But look, if he went off on his own, It happens. It does happen. And he may not be found for another 6 months. But at this stage, it's one of those. I think it's one of those two scenarios, you know. And a dispute, an altercation with somebody over something. I don't know what that is because I'm not there. I don't know. Only he knows. But he may have told somebody about it. Like he may have told Janice, or he may have told his sister, I'm having issues with this person, or this is not going well. Going to go and visit them today. They're coming to meet me at the farm or whatever. That's more likely as to what happened. They've ruled out the drugs thing was any connection. So I think it's to do with one of those two things. And I really hope, you know, for Janice and the family that, you know, there's closure in this case. You know, it's worse when it drags on and on and on. They'll never get over. It'll never end, you know. At least if they can bring him home and give him a proper burial, that's at least something. It's only small, but it's better than nothing. Some people never get a look. Look at Fiona Pender, Jojo Dullard, Kyron Dern. No one's ever found anybody's. And people do go missing and they're never found. And either they go missing through the hands of someone else, or they decide to disappear. Trevor Deely. I mean, did Trevor go off on his own? Just like Michael. He's totally disappeared. And hasn't been seen. No one knows where he went. And was it sinister then? I don't know. It's hard to know. And again, hasn't been found. 30 years later, still no sign of him. And then you have Michael Gaine, who's by all accounts a lovely man, who's well liked, well loved in the area, down at the Mart, also involved in the rallying in the cars. People who spoke about him have very nice things to say about him. Looked very pleasant in the photographs that I've seen. And then just vanished. So he's gone off on his own, or someone's done something to him. But the person of interest with the vulnerabilities is definitely someone they probably need to look closer at, and I'm sure they are. It doesn't mean they're guilty. There's no suspect at the moment. No one's been made a suspect. It's just person of interest. We don't know who that is. And for operational reasons, they won't release that. But let's hope the Gardaí get very close to finding out what happened. The farmer Michael Gaine. He went missing on March 28th or March 20th this year. 56 years of age. A farmer, married. 1,000 acres of land. Gardaí have made lots of inquiries, looked at 2,000 hours of CCTV footage, over 300 official interviews and connections, and all sorts of statements that they've got. You know, they've made a lot of inquiries. Defence forces came in and got involved. Still no sign of him. So I think if he went off and did something, he'd be found by now. But I think it's definitely someone who's done something to him and hidden him. And I hope they can break through this case and get to the bottom of it. Anyway, thanks for watching my video. And what was that? 9 minutes. Wasn't too bad. Didn't ramble on as normal. So I'm going to keep them shorter because I know a lot of people get tired watching it. But thanks for subscribing and for sharing and all that sort of stuff. It is 6th of May and we are on a Tuesday. Hope you had a great bank holiday weekend, and I'll talk to you soon.